I studied Japanese. I studied Japanese in Ireland when I was way back in the day. And I first came to Japan as a foreign exchange student in the 1990s, as I mentioned. And I ended up returning to Japan to further my career after graduation. Uh, I lived in Japan on and off then for about 6 years after that, but I returned to Ireland, went to a country called Malawi in Africa to live for a while, and I ended up, I always had a connection with Japan, but when I was in Malawi in Africa, I learned of a company called Mobal. I actually knew of them. I was actually their customer way back in the past, but I learned that Mobile were actually owned by a charity, and they were doing charitable activities in the country Malawi where I was. So I took a huge interest in them and I ended up working for the company. And today I represent that company in Japan. So Mobile has it's not an ordinary company, although what we do is quite simple. We provide SIM cards and eSIMs and Wi-Fi solutions to anybody moving to Japan, whether they be tourists or foreign students or people coming to live in Japan forever and ever. We sort them with an eSIM. We also provide a very unusual payment card, a prepaid payment card, which you might think, why would anybody need that? It's because it's a Japanese yen card. And when you move to Japan, one of the biggest challenges you're going to face is banking. So we'll talk about that in another slide, but suffice to say that our little card, Mobile Pay, solves that problem. So the last time, and I've been moving to Japan on and off over many decades, but the last time I moved to Japan formally was in 2023 with my family, my wife from Poland and my son, and we had to go through the whole procedure of applying for a visa, getting an apartment on arrival, registering our residence registration at the city hall, all of that. The only part I didn't have to do was find a job because obviously I was working for Mobile. So my visa status is not it's my in my current visa status, it's linked to my employer. It's linked to the company. I'm here as an intra-company transferee. I was transferred from the UK HQ to the Japan office. That was a relatively easy visa to apply for. Prior, on other occasions, I've been in Japan on a student visa, on a cultural activities visa, many times on a tourist visa, which I could stay in Japan for up to 90 days. I've been here on lots of visa types, but this particular one this time is linked to my employer. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Usually in Japan, your visa is linked to something. It might not be linked to your employer or your spouse. It's usually linked to a specific activity like teaching or yeah, study or work in general, for example. But if it comes to visas, Aki-san is a little bit more detailed than I am because he actually helps people apply for them and get them. In my case, it was relatively easy because I had a job. So this is an avatar of me, but you see the real me here. I studied Japanese in Dublin. I came to Japan over 30 years ago. I joined Mobile, having learned about their charitable credentials and love what they do. And I work at the Mobile office in a wonderful part of Tokyo called Kagurazaka. Kagurazaka is near Shinjuku, and it's known as the Little Paris district because of the amount of French people who apparently live there. I find it fascinating for different reasons. Obviously, French people are good too, but there's a lot of ramen restaurants there, and there's a lot of really, really good restaurants, all great value. So Kagurazaka is kind of the hidden tourist Tokyo. Not a lot of people know about it, but if it's very well worth visiting if you come, especially Akagi Shrine. If anybody is obviously Michael, if you're planning a trip to Japan, take note of that. And I work for a SIM card company, so I'm going to recommend people get a SIM with a Japanese phone number. Now, when I say that, it sounds like I'm biased because I work for a SIM card company, and that's true. But the reason you need a SIM card with a Japanese phone number is not to make phone calls. A Japanese phone number works instead of ID. In other words, if you register at an app or a service, or you go to your real estate agent and you sign a lease for an apartment, the phone number is quite often the crucial factor in getting past the registration stage. If you don't have a phone number, you can't register for the all-important app or you can't register for your lease. So having a phone number has nothing to do with making phone calls. It's just used in Japan as a form of identification. Aki-san.
So might be I can see a PowerPoint, but we are not seeing slideshow now.
Oh,
So maybe you can try to re-share the
yes. Apologies.
slideshow.
Oh, I see. So you're seeing like little slides, are you?
Yes, now
I wasn't. I wonder how. Still?
let's see.
Let me.
Ah yes, now I can see cute your icon. So amazing.
Ah, does it really look like me? You said that you look 20, so I decided I'd try to be the same, try to look 20 again. So are you seeing the slide now in full?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, I mean, Aki-san, you can always jump in the middle of this and we can change. Would you like to introduce yourself at this point? Because there's no point in me just continuing. I think it would be
Okay,
good if you introduced who you were and Japan Expert Team.
sure. I'd love to also share. Okay.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, how do I
Okay.
stop sharing?
Once.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are many things we can share. Okay, so you will hear I look like 20 years old again, as you see.
You keep saying that.
Yes. So I'm the founder of Japan expert team, Aki Watanabe. I know I'm looked at 20 years old, but I was born in 1994,
1994.
so I'm 31 years old now. So briefly, my background is human resource consultant in
Mhm.
Tokyo until 2019 to make good working environment between employers and employees. Sometimes employees and employees. But I decided to quit my job to start finding out how to live without lying to my heart, to understand what's outside of Japan like. So since 2019, I'm keep on traveling outside of Japan, then doing four things. I'm going to explain later, but one of the things is founder of Japan expert team, moving and adapting to Japan program. But now I'm currently in USA to improve my fencing coaching skills, the sports fencing for blind people and also physically disabled people. I know it sounds a little bit tough, but it's amazing sports. I really like. So I was in Hungary until 3 months ago. Then I decided coming to USA. So these three photos are para fencing, people having disability physically. And then last three photos are blind fencing. But I've been traveling last 6 years and I met a lot of people who used to live in Japan, but had given up on settling down in Japan due to some reasons like friendship boundaries, language difficulty, culture differences, job hunting, or career reason, or housing search for international people is quite difficult right now, honestly, and hidden local information. Because only 2% of whole population in Japan is international people. So most of the information in Japan, even for the foreigners, are still written in only in Japanese sometimes. So
Mhm.
the expats in Japan who are not good at using Japanese, they struggle to find the resources they need to know, but they miss the information sometimes. That's why I didn't want to see anyone who are going to struggle to settle down in Japan and also had given up on their dream with such story. That's why I started Japan Expert Team in 2023. After explaining my briefly explanation, I'm going to pass the Declan some, but we kind of offering mainly two programs, moving to Japan program, relocation and work-life support, including visa investigation and application support, and professional job hunting support, business networking, housing searching advance, and more. Obviously, mobile offering Japanese SIM cards, so we kind of have partnership like this. And then second one is adapting to Japan program, language and culture studies. So we offering culture studies based language coaching. It means so first part, unfortunately, a lot of foreigners feeling negatively about Japanese subconscious discrimination, friendship boundaries, and then culture differences. So we're having like program to tell what to do for subconscious discrimination, how to break through friendship boundaries. Later, I'm going to show how to deal with it a little bit, and then what to prepare for culture differences. And after you learned how to prepare for culture studies, culture differences, we are making some study, creating your personal study material to make sure you can enhance your Japanese studies rapidly, not JLPT, more like for self-promotion. And then we can find some Japanese community near your city. If you're in America, if you may be in Colorado, around the Colorado area, we can find Japanese people or community Japanese people belongs to. And then we can arrange language partner. So after you understand the culture, what to do, and finding community or language partner to use what you've learned from culture studies, we can give more native tutor and fieldwork experiences. One-on-one language session, first impression strategy, Japanese mindset creation. And then finally, you can build your style of communication even before moving to Japan. So including these two, moving to Japan and adapting to Japan program, our clients is always ready for mentally, physically, logically be ready to relocate and also adapting to Japan. And then I already mentioned that one of our specialty is we have mobile, like mobile provide eSIM and a SIM card with Japanese phone number and payment card for foreign residents. And so they won the 2025 King's Award for enterprise in international trade. So like these kind of connection, we are calling Japan expert team. And also I'd like to hear the story of Declan some more. So now I'm passing to you.
Great. Yeah, allow me to go back to sharing the presentation. Hopefully, I'll make a better job of sharing the screen. Oh, not from the beginning, sorry, from the current slide. Tell me you're seeing the full slide.
Sure.
So you
Now,
asked the question.
now I can see PowerPoint, but not a slideshow. It's
Oh
not
dear. Okay, how are we doing that? Did I
so.
change anything? No.
Ah, yes. Now, what most surprised you about moving to Japan?
Yeah, that was a question you asked, Aki-san. So, of course, it's very difficult for me to absolutely answer this question because I've moved to Japan so many different times. So, I've tried a little bit to list up what surprised me. But before I talk about what surprised me, allow me to mention what surprised my family because they have less experience with Japan than me. The language is obviously a big one. You mentioned learning language for self-promotion purposes. My son is 10 and he started to learn the two alphabets, hiragana
Mm.
and katakana. That's all. He's not interested in learning Japanese really.
Oh.
But having those two alphabets, which realistically you could learn them in a day if you applied yourself, allows you're looking around, you can actually see what a restaurant is selling. Like you can read ramen, for
Mhm.
example, on a sign that's
Yes.
horizontal, a vertical sign. And those small things have made his life just that little tiny bit easier. He's looking around at the train signs, the lots of advertisements within the train, and he's actually beginning to read one or two characters. He's involved and engaged in living in Japan. The other one is how quiet it is. Now, I moved to Japan
Mm.
from rural Poland, so you'd imagine moving to Tokyo would be like a feast for the senses. But not really, because I go to work in an office in Tokyo. Most of my colleagues are Japanese. It's very quiet. There's no chit chat the way we would have it in Europe, which is very efficient. It's good for productivity, but not great for the soul. I prefer to have a chat. So, of course, I drink a lot of coffee in my day, and we gather around the coffee area and we'll have chats then. But in general, no. So it's really quiet. It's quiet on the train. It's quiet in coffee shops, even.
Mhm.
Sometimes I want to do a video meeting to talk to somebody like you, Aki-san, and I can't do a video meeting in a coffee shop because it's just too quiet. And that's the social norm in Japan. You just have to adapt. So it takes a while. I've listed my own surprises, which aren't really, but even today, you have to acknowledge Japan's Wi-Fi is terrible. Even in the airport, yeah, we
Yeah.
get we get we get people saying they arrive in Haneda Airport and the staff at the tourist office are telling them, go to that wall over there. You might get a good connection. So Japan, for some reason, public Wi-Fi isn't great. And it's probably because most Japanese people have a really good mobile phone plan. So, hey, they're covered. The second one on my list is that Japanese apps only work with Japanese payment cards. Now, this one caught me out a little bit because I should know all of these things, having been in and out of Japan. But that kind of is a new phenomenon. And if you want to use something like, for example, Uber Eats when you set up here, and you might need to use Uber Eats in the first couple of days when you move to Japan, unless you've got a kitchen with everything ready to go. You set up Uber Eats. It requires a Japanese payment card in Japan. Tons of examples like this of other apps. The biggest one, of course, would be Mobile Suica, the IC transportation card. But I've just given you one example of many. Opening a bank account, I'd mentioned, was a challenge. Opening a bank account within the first 6 months in Japan is a challenge unless you open a bank account at the post office, because the post office isn't, strictly speaking, a bank, it's a public service. So they're obliged to give you a bank account. But that's it. They give you a bank account with what is called, and we don't have this, I think, in the Western world, a cash card. And a cash card is a card, it's a piece of plastic without a chip, which allows you access to your cash via ATMs. That's it. You can't shop online. You can't do chip and pin at a physical store. You can't do anything with it except withdraw cash. That's it. They will, interestingly, when you open a bank account, and it's quite simple, the process itself, it can even be done via an app. Um, Partly done via an app. At the end of the app application, you still have to print out a PDF and bring it to the post office. So it's still mind-boggling. At the end of that process, they'll send you a form to apply for a debit card. Now, a debit card is the default
Mm.
card for a bank account in Europe, but you don't get that as the default in Japan. In fact, you don't get it until you have at least lived in Japan for 6 months. So I might mention the post office is a really easy place to open a bank account, but it gives you not full banking functionality. It gives you the first step on the ladder. I managed to overcome this struggle because I had a mobile pay card from our company, which apart from plugging that, I'll also mention that I also eventually, after 6 months, opened a bank account with Sony Bank. But I only did so because I could write my name in Japanese during the application procedure, which
Mhm.
is relatively easy. You can use ChatGPT to translate your name anyway. But I also required a physical copy of my business card. I had to do the front and back of the business card, my and a physical copy in the check, the ID check. I had to show them a physical copy of my health insurance card. So
Mhm.
it might not be something that everybody can get even after 6 months. So
Mhm.
opening a bank account, full stop, can be a challenge. The other thing on the other bullet point I have here was when you move to Japan first, you've got your visa. You arrive at the airport, you're here. You don't usually have a place to live, a permanent place to live, because you can't start looking for an apartment until you have what's called your residence card to prove that you're actually a resident in Japan, or
Mhm.
perhaps even a phone number. There'll be a couple of criteria you'll have to meet. So most people arrive in Japan without permanent accommodation. Families I met who moved to Japan around the same time as I did, they all said they took a hotel for 1 month. Now, I wasn't of that mindset. I thought I can do this. I can get an apartment relatively quickly. So I booked a hotel for the first 10 days, knowing that I had 14 days to register my address on my residence card. That's the legal requirement. When you move to Japan within 14 days, you're supposed to register your address. That was for me the deadline. I was going to spend the first 14 days in Japan making sure I found a permanent address. I
Yes.
just about did it. I just about did it, but I made one mistake. I didn't book the hotel
Oh.
accommodation long enough, and Tokyo was all booked out. Tokyo in November of 2023. It's not a particularly high tourist season. I went to booking.com. 90% of the properties in Tokyo were booked out. I had a family. There were no family rooms. So you can see what I've written here. We moved to Yokohama at the weekends. Not bad. I mean, it was a bit of a journey, a bit of an adventure. But the fact is, we couldn't stay in the same room because, well, the weekends get busy. The
Hmm.
hotel was booked. But in the meantime, parallel to staying in the hotel, we were looking for an apartment. I did all the legwork. It was quite a fascinating process. I didn't get an advance viewing of Mount Fuji. I didn't see inside the apartment. In fact, I was basically told, "Do you want it?" Because if you say yes, you're first in the list, because Japan operates on a first come, first served basis. It's very honest in that respect. I said, "Yes, we want it. Can I see the room?" They said, "No, because the keys are in Osaka with the management company." So we got the key on a Friday to move in on a Saturday. And we still had the problem of we're moving out of our hotel into a room. No, we had light fittings, but no air conditioning unit in it, no kitchen, no fridge, no anything. There was a gas cooker and whatever, of course, the very basics. There was no beds, no furniture. So on Saturday morning, I moved in, and you have to get your Lifeline services up and running. Lifeline is water, gas, and electricity. And my particular apartment uses both gas and electricity. So I was thinking, how am I going to get all this done and sleep there with no furniture, no beds, the first weekend? The water was connected over a phone call. The gas guy came in on the Sunday morning. Electricity was connected on Saturday. I then had the very tough job of getting furniture and beds. And I went to IKEA and I got some mattresses, which I carried back myself. So we had something to lie on the first weekend. But I ordered a bed from a Japanese version of IKEA called Nitori. And I recommend Nitori. They're fantastic because they make everything for you. If you buy something like a flat pack piece of furniture, they come here, they make it, and they take the rubbish away, which is fantastic. But it took 5 days to order a bed. In other words, they don't have stock. There's a lead time of 5 days. So for the first week, we were living on the ground, and we went to the 100 yen store in our neighborhood and bought a fork or a knife or a spoon or a bowl. And it was all very makeshift and very exciting too at the beginning. But it's a challenge. If you come here on your own, I would probably, if I came to Japan on my own, I would have probably either stayed longer in the hotel or gone for a share house. Share houses are becoming really popular. And just to give you some information on share houses, when I first came to Japan 30 years ago, share houses were like they were the worst of the worst accommodation for the foreigners. We
Mm.
all stayed there because there was no other option. These days, because of the falling population in Japan, share houses are top quality, top grade accommodation. I recently visited a friend's share house near Narita Airport, and it used to be the female dormitory for the ANA Airlines cabin staff. So it had a squash court, a basketball court. It had like a public bath. Of course, there was no male and female. It was one public bath. So the share house divided on in the morning it's for women and in the afternoon it's for men or something like that. But it was very, very nice. And it had a garden and it had a big wall around it. And I thought to myself, share houses have changed. They used to be, they used to be different. Let's just say that. Another surprise, and this will depend on where you live. I live in Tokyo and I still use cash. Even yesterday, we went for dinner near a JR being a Japan Railways, so a big station area in Tokyo. And there was a market outside, like a Japanese traditional sweets market.
Hmm.
And all of the food that was there, my son was like, "Wow, this is great. Let's buy some things." Of course, everything was cash. When you buy street food, quite often the food trucks are cash only. When you go to pay entrance fee to some small garden, it's cash only. So cash is still required. And I know on the internet people are saying, no, you can survive with the Japanese digital payment apps. You can, but if you have a kid, forget that. You need some cash always. Plus, everybody I know in Tokyo who has who lives in a high-rise building like I do, put some cash away just in case there's a big earthquake or a big disaster. It's useful to have cash because, of course, the vending machines might be your only source of liquid
Hmm.
in the event of something like that. So it's good to have coins and notes for an emergency. You just never know. The other surprise, and I shouldn't be surprised, is the weather in Japan. It feels like I arrived in November last year, it was beautiful, beautiful until about mid-November. It got really cold suddenly. And right now I'm still experiencing that very cold. And when I moved into my apartment, I didn't have an air conditioning unit in the main room. We had an air conditioning unit in the bedroom, and I didn't think it was important. That was a regret. I'm sitting here now under the cozy warmth of an air conditioning unit, which I had, funnily enough, installed by a foreign resident. I used the services of a Polish air
Mm.
conditioning, let's say, handyman. And I chose him because, well, the conversation was in English and I wanted to support a fellow foreign resident. But it was very interesting because I contacted the management company and I said, I want to install an air conditioning unit in the room. And they said, that's fine, but you can't make any holes in the wall. And I thought, well, hang on a minute, that isn't going to work. You have to, you have to make a hole in the wall. So after a while of sending them photographs of the wall, which is a wall, and the balcony, which is on the other side of the wall, which you put the outside unit, they were convinced I needed to drill a hole in the wall. But they told me that after I drilled a hole in the wall, okay, you have to plug the hole when you leave. When you leave, you must leave an apartment in Japan just as it is. So not only do I have to fix the hole in the wall when I leave, no problem, I also have to get rid of the air conditioning unit, which I'll probably sell on one of those secondhand flea markets like Mercari or something like that. But it just shows you the complications of Japan. An air conditioning unit is a basic thing, but to install it, I hired a foreigner. To take it down, I'll probably sell it to a fellow foreigner. It's all a bit messy, but that's part and parcel of the move here. And I've finally written that Facebook is still popular and necessary to have for expats. I don't use Facebook anymore, but I do use it for information about Japan. I don't use Facebook as a social media site. I've moved on to, I recently, I went away from X, but I was on it for a while, but I don't use Facebook. But things like your webinar event, Aki-san, you
Mhm.
advertised it on Facebook, and no surprise because most of the best information for foreign residents in Japan is still to be found on Facebook. It's extraordinary.
Yes, Facebook
That's
is
that's
required.
yeah. There's some of the surprises. I mean, I could go into more. Shall I continue, Aki-san, or do you want to take over and talk about what you're doing?
Oh, okay. Like, are you feeling, ready? I want you to share what you felt about living in Japan. So, if you feel stuck
Okay.
a little bit, I can go like visa option, or like I can go like culture studies also. I'm ready for
Okay, I'll do
anything.
this question and then I'll hand over to you. Because these questions came from you. If you could redo your move to Japan, what would you do differently? And again, it's hard for me to get into that mindset, but
Mhm.
learning Japanese is probably the first and foremost. If I speak Japanese now, so of course I can't undo that. But I see my family, um, they went through different phases of struggling in Japan.
Mhm.
Without friends, with friends. The moment you have friends, your life is more balanced. Without Japanese, with a little bit of Japanese, and
Mhm.
suddenly it's like they have a skylight in their lives. They lived in a room with no light, and then suddenly the light has come in, and they're
Mhm.
seeing things differently. So I think language is important, and I think it's important mostly in your first year, because after a year goes by, whether you have the language, you don't have the language, whether you do have friends or don't, you have your own routine and you're settled. But the first months are key. So anything you can do to improve your language in the first couple of months, I think, or before you come to Japan, that would be the most important. The other thing, and I think you're going to touch on this topic,
Yes.
is work culture. It's one thing, lots of people come to Japan and they get a job a job that they think they know what it means, maybe an English teaching job or something like that. But they don't know the culture of the company that's hiring them. They don't know the expectation of working longer hours or maybe attending the company's, the annual undokai. Undokai is a what's that? Get Fit event,
Yeah.
company sort of team building exercises, and all of these extra things. Now, I did work for a Japanese company at one time, and yeah, there were things that made me think, who? The drinking culture was strong at the time. Everybody went out and got busted. That doesn't exist to the same extent anymore. But I work now for a foreign company, a non-Japanese company, and our culture is more, we're aware that people need to have time off. We're aware that, overtime is an issue if you ask people to work beyond office hours, but that's not necessarily that rule or that norm doesn't apply necessarily to Japanese companies. So when you're moving to Japan for work, make sure you research the work culture as much as the job title. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Now, of course, I've also listed up some reasons, other things I would have done differently, which one of them is, and I said this recently on an interview for a YouTuber called Ricky with Japan Mates,
Uh-huh.
and I got lambasted for saying get an iPhone. But I'm sticking to this because most people in Japan have iPhones, and most of the apps in Japan that provide good services like Mobile Suica are not available to overseas Androids. In
Hmm.
other words, Japanese Androids are different than non-Japanese Androids. They work with Japanese apps, but foreign Androids don't. So it's just one extra thing. And I'm not a fan of Apple particularly, but having an iPhone in Japan just makes things easier. Even when you're setting up an eSIM, the iPhone is automatic. Everything is in. The Android requires manual APN setting, that type of thing. For people who want an easy first couple of weeks, getting an iPhone is just part of that process, to be honest. But I said that, and I got a lot of negative comments, that I was pushing an iPhone over an Android recently, but I stick with it. The other thing is, I would have switched my phone region on my app store to Japan on day one. There were certain apps that I needed. For example, here in this apartment, I have free Wi-Fi as part of the package. I pay rent and it includes free Wi-Fi. To download the Wi-Fi, I needed to download an app from the Japanese App Store. I couldn't change my region setting because I had a valid Apple Music subscription, which needed to be cancelled. And I had to go through the process of contacting their customer service and getting it cancelled, and then changing my App Store region setting from a European region to the Japan region. So I delayed having free Wi-Fi in this house by about a week because I didn't do that simple task. Another regret of types is that I didn't book enough accommodation to cover the first 14 days. As I said, you need to have an address to register at City Hall within or after 14 days. And the other small thing was I wished I had sourced the beds earlier. The beds we sleep in today, it took 5 days, 5 working days to arrive. And I mentioned that I ordered the beds from Nitori, but I didn't mention how much trouble I had in the first week with a screwdriver set I purchased from a 100 yen store, very small screwdriver about that size, and I was making wardrobes and cupboards and you name it. Man, that was tough, I have to admit. I went to work, I came back and I was making IKEA furniture for the rest of my waking hours. If you want to avoid that, purchase everything at Nitori. Having a Japanese phone number, which of course I had, was useful for everything from the delivery of furniture, the IKEA furniture, the Nitori furniture, but also Amazon. The courier will require a phone number. I didn't realize you needed a phone number to sign up for electricity either, because the electricity company in Tokyo, anyway, within the first few days, they billed me a small amount, a few hundred yen, just to see if I was credit worthy, and they sent the invoice by SMS, and it
Mhm.
linked to a page, a one-time payment page. If I didn't have that, I do wonder, would they have cut off my electricity? I don't know, but having a phone number meant I didn't have to worry. You also need a phone number for, I mentioned Uber Eats before, or in Japan these days, Uber Eats is not so big. Rocket Now is big as well. and of course the all-important mobile Suica or Passmo transit apps. And finally, I had a Japanese payment card. Of course, I had to pay for all of these services, which some of them required a Japanese payment card and would not accept my card from. I bank with several banks, one in Ireland, one in Poland. Neither of those would have worked for the apps. So, those are a couple of the things that I definitely would do differently, explained. But Aki-san, allow me to give you a chance to be on the microphone.
Thank you for giving me a chance, Declan-san. But thank you for sharing your story also. Okay, but thank you for sharing everything. This is what I cannot explain, I'm native Japanese, so I cannot explain what you people feel when you relocate to Japan. So I really appreciate it. Okay, so now, so if you have any questions, please keep type, please keep type your question in the chat. And later we will have Q&A questions, so please feel free to write your questions anytime. Then today I'm just gonna briefly briefly share what kind of visa option might suit you from the visa you can apply from outside of Japan. So there are some types. First recommendation, if you're living outside of Japan, is digital nomad visa. This is for remote workers. If you apply for the visa, you can stay in Japan up to 6 months. But of course, we have some requirement. First requirement is income. Minimum annual income of 10 million yen, about 65,000 US dollar. And then you need to have some insurances. But one of the biggest strengths of this visa is you can bring your spouse and the child if you want. So if you have like a remote work, allow you to go to Japan with this income, you can have the first option to relocate to Japan. Then later you can find out job hunting or like full-time job. Then you can relocate to Japan also. Second one is startup visa. This is for the person who are planning to establish their own business in Japan. Up to 2 years, you can stay in Japan. But you need to have detailed business plan. And also you are intending to apply for business manager visa later. Business manager visa either for the individuals managing or establishing a business in Japan. And then 1 year initially, renewal can extend to 3 or 5 years. Sure.
Can I ask a question? So the startup visa is a precursor to the business manager visa,
Yes.
but the startup visa has no requirements, for example, of an investment of at least 30 million yen. So the startup visa, can you come on the startup visa?
Sure.
There's no obligation to go continue on the business manager visa, is there?
Yeah, so like firstly, you need to apply this startup preparation activity plan. Once your
Hmm.
business plan are accepted from some local city's office, you are allowed to live in the city up to 2 years as a preparation period for the business manager visa.
Thank you. Do the city check your progress? For example, it seems like a very lenient, very easy to get a visa. Can you come to Japan on a startup visa and leave after 2 years?
Yes,
I
so
mean, it sounds
firstly,
like.
yeah, you can apply
Hmm.
startup visa outside of Japan. And then once it's
Hmm.
approved, you can relocate to the city, for example, Tokyo, Kanagawa, Kyoto, Osaka, Kobe, Fukuoka, many cities, city office
Hmm.
are eligible for startup visa. So first you pick the city where you want to apply
Hmm.
for. And then you are sending this application. Many information, so I'm skipping a lot, but
Hmm.
like outline of the business to be conducted. method of providing goods or services, manufacturer suppliers, like, and also some timeline.
Hmm.
Once it's approved, you are allowed to stay the city for 6 months in the beginning, and then up to 2 years at the preparation period to be ready for having investment of at least 30 million yen, about
Hmm.
200,000 US dollar for the business manager visa. And another requirement for the business manager visa is you need to have physical office space. You cannot find it before relocating to Japan, of course. So startup visa allows you to stay in Japan for a certain period to look for the office space and also the person you can trust as an employee, one full-time employee who is Japanese national or has appropriate residency status.
Hmm.
Once you're ready, while having second startup visa, you can switch to business manager visa. So this
That
is
makes
second
sense.
option. And third
Hmm.
option is the person who are thinking to go to language school. When you try to apply for language schools, we highly recommend you to ask whether the language school offering job hunting visa support. So not every, some of Japanese language institutions in Japan are offering job hunting support. If they are meeting the criteria, other this one, the course must be studying abroad at the Japanese language education institute that having accredible already picked at their appropriate school to offer job hunting visa after their graduation. You are able to stay in Japan 6 months to look for work after graduating from language schools. And this is also allows to different plan. For example, MBA. If you want to have like a new chapter in your life as a student, not only language schools, you can find like one of the example is Globis. They offering full-time MBA. And then after that, you can have job hunting visa. So these four options: digital nomad visa, startup visa, student visa for language school and job hunting visa, or student visa for MBA in Japan and job hunting visa could be your new option, we believe.
Do you mind if I answer a question raised
Oh,
in the
sure,
chat, Aki-san?
if you want.
Um, it was mentioned that because you have to register your residence 14 days after arriving in Japan. They say 14 days after arriving in Japan or 14 days after you find your permanent address. And depending on where you look online, the interpretation of that rule is slightly different. And Michael has asked if he stays in an Airbnb, could he use the address of the Airbnb as a place of residence? And I do know that hotel addresses have been used in the past, but with Airbnb, the complication is it may already be registered to the owner's address. In other words, the owner may say that their main residence or their primary place of residence in Japan is the Airbnb, in which case you might find it difficult to register your address there as well. If, however, the owner of the Airbnb has like multiple properties and lives in a different address, it should be okay as long as you get permission from the Airbnb owner. It's a lot less strict than it used to be, this 14-day rule, because I have a Brazilian friend who recently moved to Japan with his Japanese wife, and he had to also do the 14-day rule, but it was 14 days after they got their primary address, their main address in Japan. So I'm not sure if that helps.
Okay. Oh, he said something
Yeah, no, fire on. Keep going.
about he's asking. Okay, okay, this is your answer. Got it. Sure. Okay, so second part. is we finish job application. If you don't have any questions, we want to do culture studies a little bit. How to deal with friendship boundaries. So unfortunately, Japanese are still kind of say not open-minded, honestly, because we have high competitive society. Sometimes people feel afraid to open up who you are because they don't want to be judged as a loser or weak person. So the first encounter you are facing with first boundary to become social friend. Social friend is like your neighbors or classmate. You're greeting each other, but not exchange strong conversation. Just say hi, how are you? And then small talk. Then after that, you will have second boundary to become friend. Friend is like the feeling you're gathering for just having fun, like party or event. You are coming together, going together the event. But you don't make any strong exchange like sarcasm or like showing who you are, more like surface conversation, but enjoying time together they are aiming for. And the third boundary, this is a lot of foreigner relocate to Japan facing with to become close friend. Unfortunately, close friend, still close friend is, I'm saying close, but still hiding their honest feeling because they don't want to kick out from their social community or like they're afraid to hurt the someone feeling. And also they are still afraid to open up to share the trauma or like background too much. So a lot of international people feeling they are stuck on this stage. And then last one is best friend. Finally, they can tell everything each other. Even trauma, even what they are facing with, they can cry in front of you. Like I've been traveling outside Japan 6 years, but I don't think the third boundary is exist outside in Japan. Like Western culture, I'd say. But to deal with the first boundary, firstly, you're just stranger. Then you need to be social friend. You need to gain some trust. Or like you need to have good, how can I say, first impression, I'd say. So today we brought some a part of proper actions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First one is do not judge age by appearance. Second,
Thank you.
yes. Yes. Second, creating soft atmosphere. Third topic to avoid. Fourth, proper Japanese studies. Fifth, creating your personal portfolio. So first one is, in Japan, we have age hierarchy. Age hierarchy is taken very serious. For example, me, I was born in 1994. But if I need to talk with someone born in 1993, I need follow what they're saying. And also, I really need to respect them. And I cannot have a conversation like I'm talking with same ages. Even 1 year older means different for communication. So unfortunately, a lot of expats in Japan are like well, not everyone honestly, but in Western culture, if we found something respect on each other, we can be friends no matter how old we are. But in Japan, it doesn't apply for them. We need to be sure he is older than you or younger than you. So before you understand their age, try to not communicate like you usually do in your own country. I look like 20, I know, but I'm 30. If someone 25 years old, like Western people, communicating with someone in native Japanese who had never had international communication in their life, if 25 years old communicating with 31 years old guy in Japan, the Japanese guy would feel, okay, you're disrespecting to me. Okay, you are still, I cannot accept you as a social friend. So please make sure how there. You can ask. Except lady. Men, you can ask directly, but so try to understand how they are. If it's difficult, you can just keep it polite until they open their heart or giving you more information so you can guess how they are. Okay, so this is hierarchy, age hierarchy. So do not judge age by appearances. Second one is creating a soft atmosphere. In Japan, we have a term of like some popular sentences. 道を尋ねられる人になりなさい. This is how to create your Japanese mindset, kind of. So it's better to be aiming to become a person whom people ask for direction. So usually people astray the street or usually pick the person who have a soft atmosphere and not rushing and having good grooming, like good grooming, calm expression, and relaxed attitude. For example, this is a relaxed attitude. Right side is correct. Your shoulders are really relaxed. Arms, arms is following gravity in the right side of the image. And then left side image is having huge space between arm and bodies, and like muscular guy. If Japanese people see the left side of image, sometimes people judge the person having huge posture, having unstable self-confidence. Because if you have inner peace, there's no reason you need to show bigger than you are. And also, if you're having an unstable self-confidence, you need to walk like swinging your arms. And I'm the center of the world. I'm sure because you're coming to this event, Japan tried to having harmony and also inner peace. So if you having like strong attitude on the street, you cannot be the person whom people ask for direction. And lady same, like lady like your man, lady also are crossing the leg, when you sit in the chair, if you cross the leg, it's also considered as unstable self-confidence. It's more domineering posture. So please be careful with having like attitude, not aggressive. So try to observe how Japanese people walks, especially in the countryside, ideally. But so try to relax, and then having good clothes and calm expression, face also including, and then relaxed attitude. And third one is topics to avoid. So a lot of Western people asking about family, other like first question sometimes, do you have siblings? Unfortunately, it's not common question in Japan because we have high divorce rate, and also our competitive society makes our parents to be strict for parenting. So some of the Japanese people having trauma in the childhood because of the strict education. Like, if you see the like American drama, Chinese family, always going to the mathematics classes, the swimming classes, like many activities after school. It's also happening in Japan. They couldn't have enough time to enrich the peace with family sometimes. So if you ask Do you have siblings? How your parents doing? Sometimes it
Mhm.
leads to the people hesitate to answer the true feeling because they might have trauma. If they have trauma, they don't want to show. They don't want to share. So just in case, focusing on asking their personal things, except family, their hobbies, what they are feeling happy about. So this is the first one, family. One of the differences from Western culture. And second one is negative topic. Like for example, karoshi, like overtime death, or tsunami, earthquake, and also more, like kodokushi over here, lonely death, or hikikomori, the person staying at home, age 40, 50, doesn't want to work while going outside the home. I know a lot of, not only Western, honestly, but a lot of international documentary, picking these topics and then sharing the information to abroad. Of course, I'm not criticizing that. This is the fact. But even though you watch documentary, this is just guessing. They gives you guessing, not understanding based on experiences. So I'm seeing some international people who are telling, I watched this documentary. I want to discuss about it with Japanese people. But what if I was involved, the family having karoshi? Would you think I would like to share the story? Of course not. So before you gain understandings of Japanese society by living in Japan for 1 year or something, I want you to of course, I want you to keep having the curiosity to ask the people. Of course, these are amazing things, but don't bring on the table in the first encounter or second encounter. This is one of the reasons Western people are not disliked, but they're too straight to ask the question what they want to ask. I hope you understand what I mean, but please be aware of this is real. 過労死、津波、孤独死、引きこもり. You shouldn't ask in the beginning of the friendship, just in case, to avoid to have a negative
Mhm.
impression. And the fourth one is proper Japanese studies. This is how local Japanese people judge your level of Japanese at the first encounter, might say first impression. I highly recommend you to speak spoken Japanese, not written Japanese. Written Japanese means like you're talking like manga character or anime character. So if I speak English like Shakespeare, book Shakespeare, you'd feel a little bit weird, right? Like,
I'd be very impressed though.
yeah, thank you, yeah. But local Japanese people feel, oh, you're studying not from textbook, not real Japanese. So they underestimate your level of Japanese once you speak written Japanese style, like manga character. So be aware of spoken Japanese you're using. Later, I'm gonna tell how you can study spoken Japanese, but please wait a little bit. And then be aware of correct pitch accent to catch better attention and impression from Japanese. For example, this is typical one. So left side is correct pitch accent of hello in Japanese, konnichiwa. Red side of the red dot representing the volume, how strong you need to express. And then black line representing pitch accent. So this is native pitch accent. Konnichiwa, konnichiwa. But a lot of international people say this one, konnichiwa, konnichiwa. once we catch incorrect pitch accent, konnichiwa, we would feel you are really beginner level or up to intermediate. This is my favorite one I'd like to share. So left side is a correct pitch accent of boiled egg. Yude tamago. Yude tamago. But if you have wrong pitch accent, yude tamago. Yude tamago. It sounds like boiled grandchild. It's having big differences with between.
Tamago meaning egg and mago meaning grandchild in this case. Yeah.
Yes. So please be careful with correct pitch accent and also spoken Japanese. If you want to do studying the correct pitch accent and also spoken Japanese, I highly recommend you to watch TED Talk Japan. The presenter or speaker on the stage, they always need to have good accent, pitch accent. They need control volume. And they always using spoken Japanese. So if you try to mimicking what they're saying, you can catch what they are saying. So if you're already advanced level of Japanese, please go finding Japan TED Talk. And if you really want interest in learning these things, we can have some workshop for you. So anytime, please let us know. And then last one is be prepared for personal portfolio for the first impression. If you're not good at speaking Japanese. And also for the Japanese, local Japanese who are not good at English. So this is one of the clients, former clients. He mentioned like why I want to move to Japan or what I like about Japan, wish to experience in Japan, brief background, value, hobbies, contact, and some photos about his life. At least you have some document. You can tell who you are. You will be not misunderstood by native Japanese who are not good at English. And also we are using this one for the language study sometimes also for self-promotion. You can practice how to do self-promotion. But this is
Can
our
I
recommendation. Sure.
can I ask a question, Aki-san? This particular portfolio, you created this, I think, for one of your Danish clients. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
Did this person move to Japan and use this
Yes,
portfolio?
yes, yes. Of course, he's
Hmm.
using. Like, he married with Japanese lady, but also he didn't have any friend, of course, in the beginning. And he moved to
Okay.
Japan, the where his wife was born, living. But with this second resume, he could break through the friendship boundary also. He could be remembered as one of the person living there, not
Hmm.
not one of the international people, more like one of the person.
So, in what situation did this Danish gentleman use the portfolio? For example, when he went to his job or a potential interview, or
Yes.
what situation?
So we can use this for the two reasons, for career reason
Hmm.
and also daily life. For
Hmm.
career reason is I'm a former HR consultant. I know we Japanese recruiters kind of scared of hiring international people because of course company can provide the training to adapt to the culture of company, but they cannot offer their program for their daily life. Some international people quit the job easily once negative event happen in their daily life.
Hmm.
This is high risk for the recruiters. So if they're the Japanese candidates or international candidates, they want to hire Japanese because they're scared of the international employee leaving the company soon. But at least you have this second resume. What I like with Japan, I really want to settle down or adapt into Japan.
Hmm.
They feel a bit secured, relieved to hire him as a new employee because he will not leave the Japan, even though negative thing happen in Japan, in his daily life.
So if I understand it correctly, for example, if a foreign person moves to Japan, they don't have a history of being in Japan, working there. So this is like you're coming pre-packaged. Here's who I am. You don't have to know me for 10 years or 20 years ago. Here's who I am in a paper format. So it's like a calling card and a
Yes,
summary of your life. Yeah,
yes,
okay, that makes sense.
exactly.
Hmm.
And also, of course, it's better to have Japanese resume, CV, and then with this one, three document if you have. And also, if you have this second resume, you can guess what kind of question recruiters want to ask to you in advance. So we can prepare the answer for the expected question from recruiters because they are going to check second resume. Oh, you like Japan, like, oh, you like kanji. You have this
Hmm.
background. What you want to do after you hiring here, like,
Hmm.
so you can be
And did
prepared.
this person get a job?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. There's a question from Michael on the same topic. Would such a portfolio be necessary to submit to immigration for visa purposes? And the answer is
And
absolutely yes. I I've been to Japan how many times I can't count, but the last visa application which I made in Poland to come here, I still had to give them my resume again for about the umpteenth time. I had to go back and try and remember what years I attended primary school, and it was a very basic format which we employed a visa lawyer, somebody like you, Aki-san, in many respects, and the visa lawyer gave me a very traditional resume format, Japanese style. It had you write the year and one line you write the name of your school. I couldn't fit, I think that's pretty much it. Yes, you have it there. I couldn't fit all the details, so I just gave the name of the school. I couldn't even tell them. They knew it was probably Ireland, the country, but not the detailed address because there was no room, and they accepted that. The immigration authorities didn't do due diligence or whatever they should have done. So yeah, that's what that's what Michael's probably asking about. Do you fill that in for visa applications?
はい。まあ、I don't think, I hope so. I hope so. But it's not necessary.
It was necessary for my application in 2023. It
Okay.
was, and when I say it was necessary, it was a box ticking exercise because the detail that's in your personal portfolio is far more detailed than what I gave them. In fact, yours is useful. The one I gave them was pretty useless, but it ticked a box. So they're not looking to check the details. They're just looking to have your resume submitted. It's one thing you must submit.
Yeah. So I hope this is pretty helpful. We believe this is really helpful for job hunting also. And the daily life also. If you want to be a member of the community, local communities, it's better to have do tiny presentation, catch attention.
I've never done this much, but I do agree with you that if you have that prepared, it's all of the doubt goes away. Japanese people, I can imagine the response to this would be, oh, as in, yeah, now we know who this guy is, which it would take
Yes.
a long time to find out otherwise. It's a good idea.
Well, this is just what we recommend you to prepare. Of course, you can do ChatGPT, but
Mhm.
photo name, your wishes, dream, your love of Japan, want to try in Japan, background, value policy, hobby, contact QR code. If you have your personal portfolio, you will be ready for the self-promotion kind of without language barrier. So this is the 5 recommendation to break through. The first friendship boundary to become a social friend. And then if you want to learn about more because you came to this event. I want to give some free gift. Left side is ebook about including friendship boundary things. It's called What to Prepare for Moving to Japan. Once you're ready to relocate to Japan after you acquired visa. So this is what to bring to Japan, making the most of your first week, taking your Japanese study next level. Yeah. Breaking through Japanese friendship boundaries. You can learn more. And also advice on interacting with local Japanese. One of them is don't judge age by appearance. There are many things about friendship boundaries, so you can check. So I give some moment. And then right side is our more details and free counseling link, moving and adapting to Japan program.
Does the link work?
Link work. Nice.
Yeah,
So if
this
you want
generally does.
this is the chance you can have free gift ebook.
So it
And
goes to
also,
a Google Drive link. Am I correct?
yes.
Yeah. Okay, it works. It works. Yeah.
And then you're coming this online event. So I would like to give some discount for the program also after you coming to counseling. So first counseling, we are not forcing you to purchase anything. More like get to know each other, understand what you need. Then later, we are going to make some tentative plan, support plan. And after the support plan, we can think about how much we can discount for you. Because you're coming to this event, you made effort. You deserve to have some extra point. So hopefully you enjoyed our presentation from Japan expert team. Anyway, this is everything what I want to share today. What did you
Wonderful.
what did you feel, Declan-san?
No, I felt like I learned something. I can see exactly where the personal portfolio would come in, especially if you move to a rural area. And I'm guessing that I know it's an example of a Danish person who married a Japanese person, but I'm guessing he moved to a rural, non-city area, in which case I could imagine him printing that, sending copies to every neighbor or giving it to the neighbors, and the neighbors will come back with little snacks because they now know they're comfortable with this person. It would just speed up the whole process of making friends. So it's a very simple piece of advice. And as for your topics of things you shouldn't talk about, taboo topics, it's
Mhm.
amazing. I work with my Japanese colleagues. I speak Japanese to them on a daily basis. Some people will have really, interesting conversations. They'll ask me about the topics you shouldn't ask about, let's say, we're comfortable. With
Mhm.
others, I know them for years and I don't know their family situation or anything. I know nothing. So, it depends on the person. Sometimes you can speed up the friendship path. So it does depend on the person. We should probably stop recording, Aki-san, at this point, if that's all right. And
Okay.
and there's maybe some questions. I don't know if it's bedtime in Denver, so maybe questions aren't the easiest. But if there's anything, because I saw that Michael mentioned retiring on an ancestry visa. I didn't know such a visa existed for Japan, by the way. And I'm guessing if you have an ancestry visa, that's an interesting one.
I've never heard of that, honestly.
No, Michael, is it okay if we ask you a question? Do you have Japanese ancestry? I presume that's what you're saying.
Yes, my mother is Japanese, and
Okay.
I want to say if you are maybe Sansei or Yonsei, you're eligible for an ancestry visa.
That's interesting. I've not heard of it. So you will have to do the usual residence registration because you're arriving on a visa, so you're not actually becoming a Japanese citizen. You're still on a
Correct.
visa with a limit. Yeah. So you'll have to go through the same process as everybody else then.
So your mom is Japanese. I've heard not ancestor visa, but you can have some different visa status. I need to check, sorry. I need to check later, seriously.
Well,
But
she's
I
no longer Japanese citizen. She's a United States citizen now.
Okay, okay. So her so your grandparents must have Japanese citizen. Okay. If you're
They're
really interested to know the details, I can research and I can give you answer for the free counseling if you're coming to me.
I've done a lot of research on the
Okay.
ancestry visa already.
And
Um, and that's why the visa hurdle has, doesn't seem very big for me.
Hmm.
It's
Good,
just
good that it doesn't. Are you planning on, let's say, having a property in Japan? Is there sort of a long-term plan